The front-wheel drive Geo Storm made its debut in 1989 for 1990. Being assembled in Japan courtesy of Isuzu, the 1990 Geo Storm shared components with the Isuzu Impulse. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the Geo Storm, an inexpensive car that was sporty and was quite popular amongst the econosport segment of the early 1990s. So grab a cherry Sprite, kick back, and let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Although Geo was relatively short-lived by auto manufacturer standards, GM's import brand was quite popular during its stint on the market. The Geo Prism, for example, was a huge hit, a car that was virtually a clone of the reliable Toyota Corolla. There was also the popular subcompact Metro, which had the reputation of being one of the most fuel-efficient vehicles on sale in the United States. There were other Geo models as well, from hatchbacks to small SUVs. Many are surprised to learn that Geo also offered a sporty car, the Geo Storm. While these have mostly all but disappeared from the road, they were quite popular once they went on sale. Like the other Geo models, the Storm was a product of a joint effort. In this instance, it was a joint effort with Isuzu, the Japanese manufacturer which specialized in SUVs and heavy-duty commercial trucks. However, during this era, Isuzu also produced cars. Cars such as the first-generation Isuzu Impulse by Ital Design. The new Geo Storm, however, will be based heavily on the second-generation Isuzu Impulse. The new second-generation Impulse was an in-house design and did not have the Giugiaro influence of the previous model. It ditched the wedge shape and took on a whole new silhouette. The new model even swapped its drive wheels. While the first-generation Impulse was rear-wheel drive, the new car would be front-wheel drive with optional all-wheel drive. 1989. The Geo Storm was assembled in Japan via Isuzu. The car would be aimed at those who wanted a Japanese import while also having the advantage of the readily available support from GM dealers. The Storm went on sale in 1989 for 1990. Initially, the new car would be offered in a single body style, a 3-door liftback coupe, and being available in 2 trims, base and GSI. The base model was a bit over $10,000, while the GSI commanded a sticker of roughly $11,500. Overall, the silhouette of the Storm wasn't all that much different from the second-generation Impulse. The coupe had smooth and sporty lines wrapped in a compact package, riding on just 96.5 inches of wheelbase. Sitting in the cockpit, one would notice the Japanese design influence. Looking at the side, there were hidden door handles which added to the flowing lines. Up front, there were 4 compact steel-beam headlights partially concealed under shutters, a design cue similar to the Impulse. For 1990 and 1991, 2 engine options were made available. Base models were equipped with a single-cam 1.6-liter engine. The engine wheezed out 95 horsepower, but those that were looking for sportier performance chose the more powerful GSI. Its 16-valve 1.6-liter dual overhead cam engine cranked out a brisk 130 horsepower and 102 pound-feet of torque. 3 transmissions were available. A 5-speed manual gearbox was standard, a 3-speed automatic was optional on the base model, and a 4-speed was optional on the GSI. The Impulse RS returned for 1991, and just like the 1987 model, the second generation also came with a turbocharged engine, cranking out 160 horsepower. All-wheel drive was also available for this model. None of these features, however, made it to the Storm. This left the Storm fairly basic in terms of equipment, and it got the reputation of being a slightly watered-down Impulse. The Impulse augmented a hatchback variant for 1991, and luckily, the Storm gained its own version as well. Dubbed the Storm Wagonback, a squared-off rear roof section created additional headroom than the standard coupe. The rear windows swung out or could be removed altogether. Many deemed the wagon version as odd, and it was never offered in the more powerful GSI trim. For 1992, a refreshed Storm graced the market. There was a reworked exterior, yielding an even smoother front fascia. At the rear of the car, there was a revised fascia with a new wing for the GSI. Overall, the look was clean and contemporary. Many even say the look of the refresh model, especially with its recessed headlamps and lower fascia, was similar to the F-body Camaro, which made an appearance in 1992 for 1993. Furthermore, for 1992, the 1.6-liter dual overhead cam engine in the GSI was dropped in favor of a 1.8-liter, which generated an additional 10 horsepower and an additional 18 pound-feet of torque. Power figures for the sporty GSI were now at 140 horsepower and 120 pound-feet of torque. Despite having good reviews, the Impulse as well as the Storm were destined to be discontinued. The execs decided to put a stop to the Impulse manufacture and marketing campaign, and for this reason, sales of the Impulse would come to an end in America. Another aspect for the end of its production run was simply declining sales. This second generation Impulse model was often cross-shopped with cars like the 1GA and the new for 92 1GB Eclipse, which were more popular amongst enthusiasts. Although the Storm was indeed popular and sold in strong numbers, especially with GM's aggressive marketing campaign for Geo, the imminent discontinuation of the Impulse ultimately meant the Storm would suffer a similar fate. 1993 would mark the final year for the Geo Storm. By this time, only the coupe remained. The wagon back was discontinued. The base engine's less powerful single overhead cam engine was reduced from 95 to 90 horsepower. Once the Storm was dropped, GM did not replace the model with another sporty coupe in Geo's showrooms. There was a bit of in-house competition as well. The same way buyers typically cross-shop a Prism with a Cavalier or other GM models, Storm buyers also cross-shopped with the Saturn SC Coupe. Once the Storm was discontinued, many prospective buyers made their way over to Saturn dealerships. Even without the Storm, buyers still had plenty of EconoSport cars to choose from, especially since there was no shortage of EconoSport models during the 90s. Let us know if you've owned or drove a Geo Storm. While there are still plenty of Geo sedans on the road, these sporty coupes are a rare sight nowadays. As always, thanks for coming out to the show, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Until next time, this is your host Rob, and thanks for tuning in to Antique Tags.